Oh, aloha everyone, Joshua Hayes at BigWaveTrading.com. This video lesson is going to mainly focus on the losers, but we'll also go over those recent long positions that I have given out publicly, and we will also go over a few winners before getting to the losers. But the main idea of this video lesson is to show you how important good to cancel sell stop orders are for me. But before we get anything, I just want to bring up again, I hate this market up here. I don't like the market here. I'm okay with it here if I get long signals, but I also don't like markets up here. These V-shaped moves in this market is just getting ridiculous. Even before 2018, a lot of our moves were mini V-shapes. It's gotten absolutely ridiculous since 2018, but this most recent uptrend, are you kidding me? I mean, it's unreal. We've got negative divergences on the MACD longer term going all the way back to February. And as you can see, this ascending series of higher highs connecting it back to 2018 to where we're at now. Just crazy. And then with the more shorter term time frame, another V-shaped ramp. Now these things always end the same way. They always end the same way. V-shape moves down. So I'm going to start looking. I've already told you guys, I'm looking at SPY puts, and as soon as this uptrend line is broken, I definitely think that we're going to need to at least retest that 50-day moving average or the open gap here between 1010 and 1011. Markets love to fill gaps, and if the gap isn't a breakaway gap, which that volume surge this day, I am sorry. That's not big enough for me to think that that's what we did. I don't know. I think I saw the CNN Fear Greed Index was at 91 today. That's ridiculous. So I definitely think the market needs to pull back. I hate the market up here in this V-shaped move. If it wants to keep going higher, great. I'm still over 90% long in my end of day account. Day trading today, I tried a short on Roku. My timing was off. My God, that would have worked wonderfully if I would be a better intraday trader. But the whole point of these videos is to show everybody. I see how many people are out there trying to day trade for a living, and it's insane. I've been doing this for 20 years on an end-of-day basis, and I recently realized I wanted to incorporate the intraday time frame a couple years ago to maximize on these movers like WKHS today with its intraday halts and everything. I've learned how to start playing these intraday halts. Once they reclaim the halt level, you've got a nice move like this, 15% one day. You know, we've seen lately what NXTC and all of those can do, CNST, so I'm interested in this stuff. That being said, I know how difficult trading intraday is. It's way different when stuff is live, and I just can't believe how many people are trying to be professional day traders when you have an end-of-day methodology that the way that I employ it, no emotions, robotic, it's completely up to the computers. I feel nothing. And let's go over some of the winners, some of the losers, and some of those long positions that I've given out publicly. And by the way, there's not going to be any new long positions on my end with any kind of size or conviction until I get my monthly TSV to turn positive, or there's some orderly price action in the SPY, and or we pull back to some degree one way or another and stop this V-shaped stuff, man. Until then, I'm going to keep holding a ton of different positions. So while it's going to seem overwhelming to you, whenever we go through these long positions once again, want to remind everybody, I never recommend anyone hold less than 5 stocks at 20% of your account, more than 20 stocks at 5% of your account. 10 and 10 is the sweet spot. If you get long in an era of $0 commissions, you can break even on all your losers. Be wrong 9 out of 10 times, lose no money, and the 1 out of 10 time you're right on something like I'm about to go over, it can make your day. So we'll go over those right now. All right, everybody. The only long signals that I continue to get lately are all trend join chase extended names that are earnings winners. Fortunately, most of them are working. The ones that are not working, like OSIS, I'm getting stopped out on. IPHI was a recent long signal. It's kind of working, but it really hasn't triggered any major losses or gains. My final stop on IPHI is right here. But just to show you, Tesla which was a new long position. It hasn't done much, but now it's up 5.7%. I'll be moving a profit stop to 1 cent below today's low a day. And then there's also CPRT, which was given as an add signal, I believe right here. And while it's not really going anywhere, it hasn't triggered any major losses yet at negative 2%. And like I said, if you use the uptrend line, whenever I went long, you're already out of it and you've already saved yourself some capital as it's moved lower. And then the only other one, SHOO, hey, that's still working. But once again, not that, we don't have a whole lot of gains in there. It's only 5% in a few days, but you better believe I'll be adding a stop to 1 cent below today's low a day. Once again, if you decide to ever go in size in these positions with me, there's your uptrend line. A close below the uptrend line, take that money out, just be happy with whatever gains you have, and then we'll wait to the next great signal that you don't have to lose any sleep over because we have stops. And you're going to see how effective those stops are here in a Maui minute. But first, let's go over some of the winners from Thursday session. Excuse me. INMD continues to move higher. What is our gain now on INMD? 50%. That's a 50% gain in a little over 2.5 weeks. I love that. I wish there was more like that. Not only do I wish that there were more that would act like this, they used to happen all the time, way back in the day, but I wish we would get better signals so I could put 5, 10, 20% of my account capital into it. But right now, I'm just throwing 1% darts, everybody, and I'll remind everybody, the minimum investment in any of these stocks on my end is a few $1,000s, and I only pay dollar commissions. I set the orders up and just leave them in the Interactive Broker system, and it's up to Interactive Brokers to manage these positions for me. But INMD is one that's been working. That's a nice gain. So keep that in mind, 50%. GNC, look at how close I got to getting stopped out a half the very next day after getting filled. 2020 is the low a day. 217 was my first stop. You can see, though, never got hit. 30% gain in under a month. That's what I want to see in all of my new long positions. IMRN right here. I'm going to show you what the signal date looks like on IMRN just so you can see it. The above average volume, max green bop. It works out. All is well. There is a 21% gain. I want to get back to GNC just so you know what it looks like on my end whenever I decide to go long. The hammer candle off support, above average volume, the green bop. INMD was not only canceling quality, but it was a recent new issue. Already very familiar with this stock. This was an easy long for me. Candle over candle, above average volume, increase in bop. Everything is working out. And then the only other winner I want to show you is because it's more important to go over the losers. UBOT. UBOT is a leveraged ETF that was in my Perfect Speculator scan based off the book, The Perfect Speculator by Brad Kodeshwar. You can see that it has worked beautifully since getting long. There's a 20% gain in under a month. So those are the winners. Now let's go over the losers just once again to show you the power of the stops. NMM was a recent long position right here from my Perfect Speculator scan. Wow, what a day. I don't know why every time I make these videos, my gardener comes around and starts doing work right around the house, but that's, whatever. He's on his own mission. So let's get back to NMM, wherever I was. This was the signal, got long, got filled, boom, immediate failure. Here's the beauty of the stops. I put half of my stop here, 1 cent below this level, my final stop right here. This is the lowest low with green bop. There is no lower low within this consolidation pattern of green bop. So I was knocked completely out today. However, once again, if you use the uptrend lines, you were out before today's session. And so you're completely out, not me. I still had one final stop here, 1 cent below this day's low a day. Intraday today, I got cut out. But even if you didn't get filled until the end of the day, your loss, pretty large, but this is a more volatile stock, 9%. Let's compare that to all the winners that we just went over. And there's many more losers, so let's just keep going through them. RUBI. I went long RUBI back here. I knew earnings were coming up, but still, it didn't work out. Fortunately for me, thanks to these stops, RUBI already knocked me out of half of it before today's session. So I was knocked out of half of RUBI heading into today's session, but by the close, it's a 10% loss in RUBI. Hey, you can't win them all. Today was a rough day. This is what happens when you buy stocks ahead of earnings. I always tell people not to do it. I invest and size in accordingly, but they don't always work out. Sometimes they do. RUBI didn't work out. There's another 10% loss. LCI, here's another one. This was a bad trade, but once again, I'll remind everybody, if you use the uptrend lines like I do, as soon as it opened today, you were knocked completely out of LCI, just like on RUBI. It didn't matter because it was same here. This was my final stop. So at the open, I was not completely out. But if you would have used the uptrend line, basically the same thing would have happened. Let's see if you could have gotten out early. You might have. You know what? You would have at the close yesterday. It would have hit it. So, you know, this market, it's a tough one right now. But this is what happens when you buy ahead of earnings with like stocks like RUBI. LCI, another one. Didn't work out. You can see this was my long signal. I went long. Initially, it was working. But, you know, 17% loss. It's a pretty big loss. But thanks to stops, you know where my final stop was because you should be know by now how I have them. That's where I was completely knocked out. It's splitting hairs. But trust me, that wasn't my only stop. Also, obviously, would have had a stop right here. So I was knocked out a half shortly whenever it started to trend down. And I was not completely out before the close today. So obviously, I didn't suffer a 17% loss on my end. But this can happen. We're not perfect. This is trading. You can't be perfect. But you want to buy stocks like this ahead of earnings. This is what can happen. My goal is hopefully, if I decide to do this, that they never trigger. But until today is the first session, the very first session where I've had multiple earnings losers. I've already had one in HVT that prevented me. Once that happened, I stopped buying stocks with earnings coming up. But you can see that that was on the 31st. And you look here at DXYN, you can see my signal came earlier. Should I have been more proactive with my stops? I was. Let's see what it looked like coming into today's session. I believe this is what yesterday's low was. I had a stop here, a stop here, a stop here, and a stop here. Ripped through them all today. But what if I didn't have any stops and I only had one here? That would have been a nasty little cut. Also, another 17% loss. Guys, I'm not hiding my losses. And the ultimate one is coming up. But I'm basically already out of this one. And this is the great thing about taking profits on the way up. Look at this one, ALNA. I believe we've reviewed this as a winner before. But I tell you what, after getting long here, it hit 50% of my profit stops here whenever it hit on this day. And then as it pulled back from this high, I put another 50% right back up there at 594. All of this is posted in the chat room, live every day. Everybody knows when I'm getting in and getting out of a stock, and I make it very clear what I'm doing. And if I don't, ask me and I'll tell you. So got very lucky, and right there, got knocked out of another 50%. So I had well under 25% less than this on hand because not only did it hit the stops, but once I do take that 50% profits and I have this pullback on heavy volume, I've added a stop here. Remember, I'm always tiering stops. So bam, knocked out another 50%. So coming into today, I had about, I'd say, a little under 20% of ALNA left. I had stops all along the line, but once again, if you didn't, I told you guys, you just draw an uptrend line. Boy, oh boy, would that uptrend line have saved you at the open today. Because ALNA, look at that performance today. And thanks to stops, this is why I love good to cancel sell stop orders. I don't care what anyone tells you. The market makers do not care about your stops. They do not care about your stops. Maybe they do if you're a large whale. But when you're spreading out your capital, and you would never invest a lot of money in this kind of stock anyway, but when you're spreading out your capital, you don't really have to worry about that. But look at what ALNA could have done if I didn't have any stops. That would have been a massive 50% loss. Instead, overall on the trade, not quite sure what the total gains were, but they were quite nice because I was taking profits all the way up with barely anything left with as much as a 30% gain before today's nasty drop. So that's some real transparency for everybody. Not everything works. It's great when more things work than don't work, but whenever things don't work, you'll thank me that you have stops on the book. Because if I didn't have stops on the book and I woke up, let's say today and I saw that this had happened or whatever, I check it after the market and see that this has happened, I'm not going to have a good day. But instead, something like this doesn't bother me at all. So that's some technical analysis 201, 301 for everyone. I'm going to go ahead and wrap the video lesson up here. If you can, and if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, reshare, retweet. If you have any comments or questions, leave them below. I'll get back to them as soon as possible. Trading isn't easy, but whenever you have stops on the books, it can be a lot easier.